Hey guys, welcome to Executive Espresso. I always got to make sure my mic is not on mute. I talk to my guests about muting when they cough and stuff, and I mute mine when I cough, but I also forget to unmute it. We have a special guest for you guys today, Taylin Simmons, who is the co-founder of Ghostlii, and he's become the X, which is the platform, not history. He is the X expert in ghostwriting and the co-founder of it. And he built the leading ghostwriting agency for founders, entrepreneurs, and personal brands. His mission is making sure that brands don't settle for just mediocre messaging and missed opportunities. And Ghost's expertise is in elevating your brand using results that Taylin has proven to work, and he's developed a track record of success. He has measurable results, and as it says in the show notes, you can look up their immeasurable influence. And he's gained and organized a first-class network of high-quality founders and CEOs, and some of the best customers out there on, the platform that is heretofore known as X. And he's here to share his story with us, and we'll get him up on the screen. Taylin, thank you for being here. How's your day going so far?
Man, I got no complaints. We've got caffeine going through the bloodstream. We're feeling good. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, you and me both. I started to kind of make a joke about I'm high, but I'm coming off of a runner's high because I just
Yeah.
finished my morning 5K. And yeah, I've got this is my third cup of coffee, and I probably have four or five more cups in my future. But tell us about Ghostly. How did you come to be in that business?
A lot of it kind of happened by accident, actually. I was just writing on Twitter, looking for ways to make money online that were viable. And I noticed other people on Twitter talking about, oh, ghostwriting is viable. You can get to like 10K per month. And back then, I wasn't doing very well financially. I was only making like 40K a year. So I wanted to find a way to make more money. And I'm like, okay, I'm writing online. Like, this seems like something I could get into. And I ended up stumbling upon a mentorship from Dakota Robertson, who had built a pretty big ghostwriting agency at the time. And he coached me, and I just ran with the knowledge and the education. And yeah, it just took off from there, man. It started. I think I have this maybe philosophy that I don't like doing anything like half-ass. If we're gonna do something, I want to like go all in. I want it to be a memorable experience. I want to put a lot of effort behind it, and it wasn't just enough to ghostwrite and just like okay, let's make like 10K per month. It had to be a bigger idea than that, and that's where my co-founder and I just like ran with it. We're working with more and more clients, scaling bigger and bigger, trying to figure out like where is our positioning in this market? What do we honestly believe? And we landed on like we don't really believe in fake followers. We don't believe in just like growing fast. We believe in true momentum and influence from having a personal brand that makes life easier on so many fronts. And we arrived at that more authentically through iteration and working with multiple clients. That's where we're currently at.
And one thing that attracted me to having you on Executive Espresso is you seem like a very passionate guy. And that's the label I would put on what you just described is you're not just in it for the money, you're in it to make a difference, and that requires passion. And I'm a relatively new Twitter user. I've had an account for probably 12 years, but I really never actually used it until recently. But that's something that I see lacking is it seems like a lot of people will post things on Twitter when they're half asleep. And it's not generic. I mean, it is generic. It's not organic. It doesn't tell me who they are. And I think maybe was that is that something that you guys bring to the table is a passion and a creativity that is lacking on the X platform from other creators.
Well, I definitely think not everyone is creative or they haven't developed a creative capacity, depending on what you believe and if it's like learnable or not. I would say a lot of creators on X and on Twitter, I don't fault them, but they're trying to learn. They're stumbling through the dark. There's so much to learn. Like I'm trying to learn hooks, and like I look up to these people, so I'm just gonna like copy them and do something similar to them. Like I know of a few creators that are a lot younger, maybe like 15 or 16 years old, and they're doing quite well, but they've come under a lot of heat for copying people too closely. And that's what their name has been known for, like in the industry, is like, like don't really work with that guy, don't talk to him, like he just rips everybody off. I'm like, well, he's also just like a young 15 or 16-year-old kid who sees all these guys doing good. And he's like, I want to do that, so I'm gonna like do something similar. And maybe he's getting a little bit too close to copying, and he's just stumbling through the dark. But learning how to be like a good content creator takes a lot of time, and it's a lot of skill stacking. It's not easy to do.
I love
So
that
I don't
term. I've
fault
actually not heard that
it.
term, skill stacking.
Yeah. To be honest, I actually more believe in skill synthesis than skill stacking, but people are more familiar, I guess, with skill stacking, where we'll say if you want to be on a content creator, you need to stack the skills of like copywriting, marketing, branding. Like it's not just like, oh, you learn this one thing and then you can run with it. It's how do you learn multiple skills and not only stack them, but they have to be interconnected and interrelated. And that's maybe where creativity comes into play, where how much do you lean into the copywriting front, but then you also have to balance it with branding, and you like they're related, all the skills. That's why I call it skill synthesis. So maybe you stack skills initially and then you synthesize them so that
I
they work
love that.
together.
That's awesome. I won't bore you guys with the neuroscience of that, but Taylor mentioned something in case you guys are wondering. You actually can train creativity, and creativity, I believe, starts out with curiosity. I don't recall Ron Howard's colleague, partner in the movie, Brian. What is Brian's last name? But he actually has a book on how he and Ron got so great as movie makers, and he says it's curiosity. And it really doesn't matter about what. For me, it's a wide variety of things. I'll study everything from space travel to plumbing, because a lot of how the brain works, by the way, is plumbing, electrical, but also plumbing. So get curious about things and dig into it. And yeah, I do think that you can create creativity and start with curiosity. What are some of your methods for kind of keeping those creative fires stoked up?
I guess it depends on how you define creativity. I would define it as like linking unrelated ideas or things that are seemingly unrelated. So for me, a lot of creativity comes in like, okay, if I'm approaching a writing topic that might be kind of generic, what can I link it with to make it interesting or fun? Or what is it related to? What does it remind me of? What analogies is it kind of like? So creativity for me is, if you have writing as your main thing, which I do in my case, is learning a bunch of things outside of writing and then trying to weave it together. If someone wants an example, there's a thread that I did called like the slip and stick, which is it's something that I actually invented or like coined a new name for. But I read Joseph Sugarman's Adweek copywriting handbook, and he talked about this thing called slippery slope writing, where they read the first line and then their eyes slide to the next line, and it's like sliding down a slippery slope. And everyone talks about it in a very trite way and says, hey, like just use slippery slope writing, but it's so hard to do that no one ever gives an example of how to do it. So I was just getting creative. I'm like, okay, how would you like teach someone to actually implement slippery slope writing? And I was watching Harry Potter, and they said like swish and flick, and I heard it as like slip and stick. So I was like, oh, you could like use hooks to slip them into the page, but then you could use sticky sentences to like help it be remembered, and it's like causing instant hits of dopamine. In my opinion, that's how James Clear wrote Atomic Habits, is with like a slip and stick method.
Oh,
And I like
really?
combined all those ideas into one and then wrote a thread on it. And that's me just like combining multiple things to make a point and educate. And that would be my way of doing creativity, just linking unrelated things in new ways that people haven't seen before.
Well, the slip and stick, it dawns on me, and I think writers do that all the time, writers of novels and books, because you have to give your reader a reason to turn the page. And on X, you have to give your reader a reason to go to the next line. And so I love that, a slip and stick. But an old friend of mine, actually, he married my wife and I. He used to say that the art of creativity is concealing your sources. And that doesn't mean to copy stuff, but as scripture, there's a scripture that says there's nothing new under the sun. So everything is an iteration of earlier things. But I think the trick is to take something old and say it in a very new way that is stamped with your brand. And there are things that I say that I welcome people to steal it. I don't take it personally if it's going to help somebody, but don't say it exactly the way I say it. Say it with your accent. You guys might have noticed I have a bit of a Southern accent. Say it with your accent and your dialect based on your brand, because there's an audience that you are meant to speak to that I could never reach. And so try that out. Well, what are some, well, I guess we just covered that, some secrets of captivating copywriting. And what are some stumbling blocks that you see creators, stumble across in your work?
I think the first one is the imposter syndrome, for sure. I remember starting out as a creator and being very scared to post my first tweet and to post online in general, because I'm like, what if people make fun of me? What if I post something and my idea is bad and people just shred me in the comments? What if nobody sees it? Like, there's this massive fear of failure and this idea of what if I'm not worthy of like posting online or like worthy of people's attention, that definitely takes a while to overcome. It took me probably 3 or 4 months of consistently posting to start to get in the groove and be like, okay, I'm starting to feel like it's becoming more natural. I'm less fearful of posting, even getting a little bit more polarizing, being willing to say things that are a little bit more like that you believe that might not be as just accepted and loved by people. It took me a while to get there as well, and I'm still working on that. That's a big one, I would say, in the beginning, is definitely the imposter syndrome, and then the consistency.
And at that precipice, at that point of opportunity of posting something or not posting it because of these, we call them cognitive distortions, distorted ways of thinking about yourself. What type of affirming thought do you tell yourself to help you get over that hurdle?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if I use affirmations for it.
Or maybe just something accurate that you say.
Yeah, if I do, I think what I always remember is a quote from Jordan Peterson. It's something along the lines of, what you most need is like where you least want to look. Like, kind of the idea that the hero, I think it might come from Joseph Campbell, like the mythologist, that
Yeah.
like why did they go look for the Holy Grail in like this dark forest that no one ever thought to go and look for it there? It's like, well, because that's where people are most afraid to go, right? So I'm really like leaning into that and being like, what am I currently like most afraid of? That is more like intellectual fear. Because we're not talking about like, I'm in the woods and a bear approaches me and I'm just like, no, just like face the fear. I'm pretty scared of this bear, but let's just like,
As well,
fine.
you should be.
Yeah, exactly.
People unafraid of bears tend to get eaten by bears.
It's true. You can tell I'm from Canada, where bears are like a very real thing.
Oh, wow. No way.
Yeah.
I was in Canada once.
Yeah.
I didn't see any bears, but I saw lots of moose. Or I was
Yeah,
wondering, what is
moose.
the plural of moose? Meese.
It's still just moose. It's weird.
Just moose.
It
It's
breaks,
2 moose, 3
it
moose,
breaks.
500 moose.
Yeah,
It's crazy. It should be
exactly.
meese. Hey, look, there's 500
It
meese.
should
There's one
be.
moose. I like to go back to Mr. Rogers, one of my favorite childhood heroes, of course, who made the point that there has never, ever been someone like you in the universe, and there will never, ever again be someone like you in the universe. And listen, folks, if you don't say the things that could be valuable to other people, then I just think that that's a mistake. I think that you're robbing them of an opportunity to hear your perspective. I can't speak your perspective only you can speak your perspective. So let's move ahead real quick. Run out of time here for a 15-second triple shot. So Taylin, what's your own personal mental struggle currently?
Focus. I know I'm supposed to use 3 words. Focusing on needle movers. You got an extra
Oh,
word
I
there, but
love that. Yeah, focusing on needle movers. What's your current best or top mindset hack to deal with such a thing?
mm, just doing what you know you need to do.
And one top thing that works for you to ignite inspiration.
Think about the pain I want to move away from.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I had somebody ask this on a group I'm in about how do you ignite inspiration, and it sounds very boring. It's not a magic trick, but the more rapidly you can pump blood to your brain, you'll find that
Mhm,
overall, the more creative that you will be. I talked about plumbing
mhm,
earlier, but the brain is full, of course, blood vessels and capillaries, and that's why you bleed so profusely if you get a head wound. But if you will do things that really maximize blood flow to the brain, and how do you do that? Well, you can tell if you're doing it if you're breathing really hard. So I would recommend
ah,
cardio. Cardio, and you can look at HIIT training, high intensity interval training. Check with your physician, make sure you're healthy enough to do it. But there is a clear connection, I believe, between cardio, breathing hard, and creativity and cognitive health. Taylin, on the way out, just a top tip for the audience in copywriting.
just practice every day. It sounds boring and trite, but it's a lot of this stuff is solved through iteration and practice, not through thinking. It's,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Just well, hey, it's the Nike commercial. Just do it. So if you want to get in touch
yeah,
with Kalen, you can reach him at Ghostlii, GhostLii, two I's, right?
you got it.
Ghostly.com. How'd you come up with that name, Ghostly? I mean, Ghostwriter, but where's the Lii come from?
I think it was just trying to find a name that wasn't like cheesy that we thought was kind of cool.
It is cool.
And like it works. My co-founder comes up with all the names. He's so good with that. Like I think he pitched it, and I was like, yeah, that's good.
He's the name guy. He's the name guy. You can reach Taylor on the X platform. When are we going to stop calling it Twitter? How long is that going to take?
A long time. I'm only starting to call it X, but I give it another 6 to 12 months.
Well, it's like the end of the year. You only call it the current
Yeah.
year for 12 months, and it takes you about a month or two to stop calling it the previous year. So if you've been on Twitter for 10 years, I mean, do the math. It might take a long time, but I'm trying to discipline myself into calling it X also. And I'm sure Elon Musk
Yeah.
appreciates that. Ghostly, GhostLii.com, and on X at Taylin Simmons, Simmonds, and that's in the show notes. Taylin, thank you for joining us. Guys, thank you for joining us from LinkedIn, which I know I'm not supposed to say that. Facebook, I'm not supposed to say that either. YouTube, that either. And, of course, the X platform. We'll see you guys on X. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.